Hey, we're back here with, am I supposed to call you doctor? I don't think so.
I'd rather you didn't. I've gotten pretty used to Jeff over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff Williamson, he has both a consulting company called CMG Group, and he's also a professor at Olivet Nazarene, which is down in Bourbonnais, right? This is the
Correct.
campus that you're at.
Yeah, it's just about 45, 50 miles south of the loop.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of best of both worlds, where you've got small town life, but you've got the great city of Chicago.
And the Chicago Bears come down there. Yeah.
That's right. And
yeah.
this
You get a front row seat, right?
About this time next month.
Yeah. There you
the
go.
world comes to Bourbonnais.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Jeff, with the work that you do, and obviously this is Faith Marketplace radio show, can you share with us how you incorporate your faith in your work?
Yeah, I think in any context, to me, one of the most important things I can do is establish trust with people, that they see that I deliver on what I say I'm going to do, that they can count on me, that I'm going to treat them in ways that are respectful and patient and kind. At least that's always the goal.
Yeah, I was going to say, we hear that a lot from our guests,
Right.
but I also often think, well, that's me too, and that's Bob. And then sometimes things happen and things get a little chaotic, or like you shared earlier, there's some life things that happen that can throw us off a little.
Sure.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah. Well, one of the most important things I learned over the years as a professional, and too just being a dad, is to get really good at saying, I'm sorry, would you please forgive me? So those times that something goes off the rails or it doesn't go like we would want it to, that I have the character and the humility to say, Jennifer, that came out wrong. I didn't mean that. If I hurt you, please forgive me. That's not my heart. And I need to focus on doing better in that area.
Right.
So, having that willingness to say, I dropped the ball and I'm not pleased with how I handled that. Most people, if they get a sincere, heartfelt look in your eyes, talk to you, I'm really sorry, and they sense it in your spirit, not just the childhood. Tell your brother you're sorry, right?
Right.
And you're like, nobody believed that.
And they can actually see you're human, and we all have those moments. Anything else that you do to incorporate your faith in your work?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this, and the way I framed it was I like to show them rather than tell them. So I don't lead with, let me tell you all about this. I lead with, let me develop a friendship. Let me develop a relationship, or a professional trust-based relationship. Right. And then often folks will say, I don't meet a lot of people who come across like you do, or they'll say it in different ways, but what they mean is just like, I'm not used to this. What is it why are you this way? And I say the only good in me is because of the Holy Spirit and what He's done in my life.
Exactly.
And the shaping and molding that I've walked through because of that. Because otherwise I'm a train wreck, right? Without
well,
that.
the other thing too is just the walking part of it, because we're really trying to encourage business leaders today to walk it, not talk it.
Right.
Because the millennials particularly are so skeptical, and if they know your kids, they're going to watch and see what your deal is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that Jennifer and I, and as we interview, just really leaders step into this, because our young people aren't coming to the Lord, and they're not going to church, and they're really highly skeptical, and so that walk is really what's going to tell them the story. To your point,
they're waiting to see.
Yep.
And any of the articles that I read about millennials and what they want out of their work experience is they're looking for purpose. They're looking for meaning. Their work is more than just their work.
Oh yeah.
And if they're betrayed or misled in those settings, the damage is even more significant maybe than when I was entering the
which
workforce.
then maybe we can tie back to them understanding their true identity and stop seeking it in other things.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah. And that's, I'm a strengths junkie, but that's why I love that is these are the best things about you. These are the things that you do best. These are your God-given, hardwired DNA traits. And it just encourages them.
You got a favorite Bible verse? I'm sure you have several, but
I think as we were thinking about this, there's multiples that come to mind. One is Joshua 1:9, and the other that I'll mention too is Isaiah 40:28 through 31, and I love the message of those both because in Joshua 1:9 it just says, be courageous, basically. Have
Right.
courage. Be courageous. And so sometimes I need a little kick to remind myself that I am not fighting the battles alone that I'm walking through.
Yep.
And so because of him, I can have courage and be confident that
Right.
this too shall pass. I've been telling
Yeah,
my kids
exactly.
that this too shall pass.
And he'll qualify us as you move forward to take that step, and we have some nerves about doing things,
Right.
whether that's starting a business or trying something new.
Yeah.
He's going to qualify us, and we don't have to
Exactly.
show up qualified.
Yeah. I was coaching a 20-something millennial just this week who I've worked with for several months and approaching a job change and needing to think through that some. And I just reminded her, I said, you are capable. You're already equipped with the character traits and the abilities you need. You can learn anything job related you need to do. So understand that you don't show up with every tool in the kit, so to speak. And that's important for millennials, is to know that somebody believes in them.
Yeah,
that's a huge factor.
The fact that it's a faith-based school, college, does that make your job a little bit easier? Because now you can relate to biblical teaching and truth and all that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. An environment like Olivet where we're unapologetic about our faith mission and that we're a Christian university. Well, there's a lot of folks out there that want that as a part of an education. They don't feel like faith and education have to be in either or.
Right.
And so, it's a friendly environment. When I teach my spring class, I start with prayer. I start with the students have an opportunity to share what's going on in their life, because I've got students out there whose mom's dad have cancer, or somebody was, and so it is a friendly environment where I don't have to worry about somebody going, what are you doing talking about Jesus in class?
Right, yeah,
It's like, that's who we are. Sorry, hope, don't mean to.
Don't come here if you don't want the Jesus talk.
You're probably not going to love it if you don't value your faith.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you work with a lot of younger people, but what words of wisdom would you have given your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. I know that I would have told my younger self, you need to be more patient. You need to understand that a lot of the things you want to do or be can happen in time, but it's not your timing, it's God's timing. So I can be impatient and want things to happen too quick. I used to do a 10-year plan, and I'm going to be this at age 40, and I'm going to be this. And it always wound up being something else. But you know what? It was better.
Yeah.
Right.
I told somebody yesterday, I said, I feel like I've started the most rewarding career years of my life. But what I'm doing today was not on my 10-year plan in 2009. Yeah. And so, don't try to be perfect. Don't try to be the answer to everything. I think far too long I thought, I'm young, and if I'm going to be a leader as a young man, I've got to have the answers. I've got to, not having a chink in my armor. And now that's just foolishness that I ever thought that. Yeah. Because people want to follow personally.
Well, the other thing too is a lot of wasted emotional currency.
It is,
because you're just get yourself. I came out of a family where my dad was a perfectionist, and that kind of obviously patterned after certain behaviors.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to get over that. Because it was just like, wow. And then it also was in businesses that you had to be pretty right on. You had to be pretty perfect. When I was doing my marketing agency and all that stuff, you couldn't afford to be screwing things up because. And back then we didn't have digital, so it was all old school stuff. You have a printing error or something like that. It was pretty
You're
dramatic.
walking that tightrope.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I think reflecting back on that question for all of our listeners, we should think about that, because that can shape how we can possibly do things differently moving forward, or what's maybe preventing us from moving forward. And I also want to encourage our listeners to connect with Jeff. He's at coachmentorguide.com, but also text us here at the studio to 224-404-1988 and let him, dive in with you here on a coaching call. So you have a chance to win that. Just send us the word strengths, and he'll share more about that. But Jeff, what I want to get to is, what is the article that you wrote about strengths in the journey towards your best self? All of our listeners are going to get that when they text us. So can you give us a little glimpse into that?
Sure. Yeah. That was something where I reflected a little bit on all the different experiences that I've had training young men and women with strengths and helping them to see the best things about them. And so I think as part of that, we tend to look back sometimes and go, it kind of links back to that, what would the younger you wanted to have known?
Yeah.
And so I think, it's kind of where I give some examples of, a recent one where I was doing a strengths training session for the Olivet women's basketball team. Go Tigers. And so that was an incredible experience, but then I kind of reflected back to where I'd started, and so that my journey has been so impacted by strengths, and then just the joy that I have to share that with other people and help them identify their best talents, their best strengths.
Yeah.
That's all joy. That's been my theme.
And what I love
year.
about that is the emphasis on the positive.
Yeah.
Because we think we have to be all that in a bag of chips, and we don't. And good, bad, or indifferent. When Welch was running GE, I think he had it right. Go with the strengths and lop off the stuff that you can't do well.
And this is going to be good for executives, for professional development services, and even nonprofits, right? Anybody else that this would be good for?
Yeah, I've worked with all of those different groups, and and sometimes too, it's just someone needing a sounding board. I mentioned that earlier. One of the people I work with said, I just don't have someone to talk to about some of these things.
Yeah.